Thank you very much, Mr. Shalinford, and good morning to everyone, all of our viewers and listeners around the island and across the world who follow us at this daily prep briefing. I've been here before to speak about what we've been doing as it relates to distribution of relief. Just a brief update. Distribution of food and water is ongoing to communities across the island. To date, we have transported over 520 deliveries of food, water and non-food items to over 115 communities. This is equivalent to over 1,000 tons of food and water distributed through the government system. And I must add that government has also recently partnered with the World Food Program to distribute 376 metric tons of food to 40 communities. The World Food Program was here with us at our last press briefing when we discussed relief, and since then the distribution has been completed to these communities, and over 40 communities have received a combination of 27-day, 14-day and 5-day rations from the World Food Program. Communities were selected based on the level of vulnerability, loss of livelihood and access to markets. Food for government distribution has been sourced from a combination of government procurement, both locally and overseas, donations of food from across the world, organizations, individuals, governments, and various groups. And to date, we have received 60 containers of relief supplies. And as previously indicated at other press briefings, those containers with personal relief items for individuals have been passed on to the Customs and Port Authority. Our focus for this week has been on vulnerable groups, so we have been working on distribution to the homes for the aged, to include the infirmary, grotto, chances, house of hope. We are also working with the Ministry of Social Services to complete a targeted distribution to the elderly through the Yes We Care program. We are also working with the Ministry of Social Services on distribution of supplies to foster care families and shelters. Over the last few weeks, and this week in particular, since we have more schools that are currently opened, we are working with the Ministry of Education to deliver water to schools across the island. Moving forward in the transition process, and as Cecil has said earlier, we are looking today at the transition from response to recovery. We have already moved our operations from the port at the Woodbridge Bay, which has really opened up the port to be able to conduct its regular business for commercial operations, and also for individuals to receive their barrels and other supplies that are coming in from overseas. So we have moved our operations out of the port, which was part of the early response phase, since we were not in a position to have proper warehouses for distribution. However, we have since repaired most of the warehouses available to us, and we are working with the operations through the government system and government buildings. We are also collaborating with other agencies in the distribution process. So we are working with the WFP. This is going to be a medium-term strategy that will include the WFP working alongside government on a food security and livelihood subsector committee. Now, this committee meets weekly to review and assess the food security situation and make recommendations. As we move forward, the 8 agencies, we know that the WFP and a number of other agencies are currently recruiting staff to assist with the medium-term strategy, and that will also include the food security and livelihoods sector. We are currently conducting an assessment along with the WFP of the markets, the local markets. We do know that there are individuals and communities who will still be challenged in terms of access to food, partly because the distribution networks or distribution pipelines are not yet fully opened across the island. So while there is access to food in Roseau, with some of our wholesalers and retailers coming back on stream, we still have not yet seen the distribution of food from these retailers or from these wholesalers to some of the rural communities. So we still have a challenge for some of the rural communities with access to food, and this is part of the assessment that is ongoing in terms of determining how we move forward. Now, I normally like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has assisted Dominica. As I said, we have received over 60 containers. Now, this is just containers that we've received. In addition to the containers we've received, we have also had a number of smaller ships that have come in with other items, food and water, also non-food supplies that we have also utilized within the distribution network. And we would like to thank all of our Caribbean neighbors. I would like to point out in particular St. Lucia, Trinidad, Jamaica, Barbados, Grenada, Bahamas, and a number of other islands who have donated. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our Dominicans in the diaspora and their friends who have also supplied us with key essentials, food, water, and some non-food items. We have been receiving these containers. We just received 2 containers from the UK this week that we've also been utilizing as part of the distribution throughout the island, and also the distribution to the vulnerable groups that we've been targeting this week. So again, I would just like to express the government's appreciation to all of the agencies, the countries, the individuals who have been donating to us over the last few weeks. Now we are moving on to a different stage. In the very early stages, we had very limited access because supermarkets were not open, and it was a very challenging task. I would say it still continues to be a challenging task, but now we do have more access throughout, particularly the urban areas, particularly in Roseau and Portsmouth. And also we do have individuals who are now quickly receiving their items on the port, personal items that have been shipped to them. We do have a number of individuals who have traveled as well to be able to purchase their supplies and have been able to come back to ensure that they can provide for themselves. So just to say that we are continuing to work with our partners, and we do appreciate the assistance that we've received so far. One more point as it relates to transition, what we've noticed is that the relief that we are receiving so far in the last few weeks has been focused on the new stage that we are moving to, which is recovery. So we have received a number of building supplies and material, and that has been passed on to the relevant ministry, the Ministry of Housing, and this distribution will be coordinated through this ministry. We've also received some tools and equipment for cleanup, and that has also been passed on to the National Employment Program, to the Ministry of Tourism, which is responsible for the urban renewal cleanup that you see taking place, and also to various government agencies responsible for cleanup of communities. The Ministry of Public Works also has benefited from receipt of some tools and equipment for cleanup. So the relief stage is moving to a more targeted stage. We are moving away, as we have seen in terms of what we are receiving, from the basic items to more essential items that are needed for recovery. And even for those who are still interested in providing support to us in Dominica, we are still making this appeal for these types of items. There are individuals who have lost everything in their homes and in the process of rebuilding. There are other items that will be required, household items, items for building tools and material and so on. So again, thanks to everyone who has supported. Thanks to all of our volunteers and our staff who continue to work every day. Every time I'm here, I always take the opportunity to thank all of the volunteers, the drivers, those who are loading, those who are packing, those who are going to the communities. And I want to especially thank this morning the Jamaica Defense Force, who for the last 3 weeks has been, we have 8 members of the Jamaica Defense Force who have been assigned to us in the relief distribution subsector, and they have been assisting us with loading, with packing, with distributing supplies to individual communities, and we really appreciate their assistance. We would not have been able to do this without them in the last few days. So again, thanks to everyone, and we look forward to the new phase as we move along to the recovery process. We are also continuing to support the relevant ministries as we look at how we can restore livelihood. So you know that I will also be here to discuss tourism and the work that we are doing in terms of being able to restore our tourism sector and get the livelihoods in tourism back on track. It's very critical to us that livelihoods are restored so that individuals have access to basic items, to food, to water, to be able to purchase the items that they need. So we are continuing to provide support in that area. Thank you very much.